The Sirens, Scylla and Charybdis. Odysseus and his men return to Circe's island, where Circe warns him of the perils that await him. The following passage is told by Odysseus, still speaking at Alcinous's court. He is quoting Circe. Listen with care to this, now, and a god will arm your mind. Square in your ship's path are sirens, crying beauty to bewitch men coasting by. Woe to the innocent who hears that sound. He will not see his lady nor his children in joy, crowding about him home from sea. The sirens will sing his mind away, on their sweet meadow lulling. There are bones of dead men rotting in a pile beside them, and filleted skin shriveled around the spot. Steer wide, keep well to seaward, plunge your oarsmen's ears with beeswax, kneaded soft. None to the rest should hear that song. But if you wish to listen, let the men tie you in the lugar, hand and foot, back to the mast, lashed to the mast, so you may hear those harpies. Thrilling voices, shout as you will, begging to be untied. Your crew must only twist more line around you and keep their stroke up till the singers fade. So then you will coast the Rhenicia, the island where Helios's cattle graze, fine herds and flocks of godly sheep. The herds and flocks are 7, with 50 beasts in each. No lambs are dropped, or calves, and these fat cattle never die. Now give those kine a wide berth. Keep your thoughts intent upon your course for home. And hard seafaring brings you all to Ithaca. But if you raid the beeves, I see destruction for ship and crew. The Ithacans set off. Odysseus does not tell his men of Circe's last prophecy, that he will be the only survivor of their long journey. Still speaking to Alcinous's court, Odysseus continues his tale. The Ithacans set off. Odysseus does not tell his men. I already read that, skipping down. The crew begin now silent before me. I dress them sore at heart. Dear friends, more than one man or two should know those things Circe foresaw for us and shared with me. So let me tell her forecast. Then we die with our eyes open if we are going to die, or know what death we baffle if we can. Sirens weaving a haunting song over the sea we are to shun, she said, in their green shore all sweet with clover. Yet she urged that I alone should listen to their song. Therefore you are to tie me up, tight as a splint, erect along the mast, lashed to the mast, and if I shout and beg to be untied, take more turns of the rope to muffle me. I rather dwelt on this part of the forecast, while our good ship made time, bound outward down for the wind of the strange island of Sirens. Then all at once the wind fell, and a calm came over all the sea, as though some power lulled the swell. The crew were on their feet, briskly, to furl the sail and stow it then. Each in place, they poised the smooth oar blades and sent the white foam scudding by. I carved a massive cake of beeswax into bits and rolled them in my hand until they softened. No long task, for a burning heat came down from Helios, lord of high noon. Going forward, I carried wax along the line and laid it thick on their ears. They tied me up, then plumb amidships, back to the mast, lashed to the mast, and took themselves again to rowing. So we've already heard this phrase, back to the mast, lashed to the mast, 3 or 4 times in this section. So again, repeating phrases. Soon as we came smartly within hailing distance, the 2 sirens, noting our fast ship off their point, made ready, and they sang. Their lovely voices in ardor, appealing over the water, made me crave to listen, and I tried to say, untie me to the crew, jerking my brows. But they bent steady to the oars. Then Paramedes got to his feet, he and Euryclus, and passed more line about to hold me still. So all rowed on until the sirens dropped under the sea rim and their singing dwindled away. My faithful company rested on their oars now, peeling off the wax that I had laid thick on their ears, then set me free. But scarcely had that island faded in blue air when I saw smoke and white water with sound of waves in tumult, a sound the men heard, and it terrified them. Oars flew from their hands, the blades went knocking wide along till the ship lost way, with no oar blades to drive her through the water. Well, I walked up and down from bow to stern, trying to put heart into them, standing over every oarsman, saying gently, "Friends, have we never been in danger before this? More fearsome it is now than when the Cyclops pinned us in his cave. What power he had! Did I not keep my nerve and use my wits to find a way out for us? Now I say, by hook or crook, this peril too shall be something that we remember. Heads up, lads, we must obey the orders as I give them. Get the oar shafts in your hands, and lie back hard on your benches. Hit these breaking seas. Zeus help us pull away before we founder. You at the tiller, listen and take in all that I say. The rudders are your duty. Keep her out of the combers and the smoke. Steer for that headland, which watch the drift, or we fetch up in the smoother, and you drown us." That was all, and it brought them round to action. But as I sent them on towards Scylla, I told them nothing, as they could do nothing. They would have dropped their oars again in panic to roll for cover under the decking. Circe bidding against arms had slipped my mind, so I tied on my cuirass and took up 2 heavy spears, then made my way along to the foredeck, thinking to see her first from there, the monster of the gray rock, harboring torment for my friends. I strained my eyes upon the cliffside, veiled to cloud, but nowhere could I catch sight of her. And all this time, in travail, sobbing, gaining on the current, we rowed into the strait. Scylla to port, and our starboard beam Charybdis, dire gorge of the salt sea tide. By heaven, when she vomited, all the sea was like a cauldron, seething over intense fire, when the mixture suddenly heavens and rises. The shot spume soared to the landside heights and fell like rain. But when she swallowed the seawater down, we saw the funnel of the maelstrom, heard the rock bellowing all around, and dark sand raged on the bottom far below. My men all blanched against the gloom. Our eyes were fixed upon that yawning mouth in fear of being devoured. So her mouth is so large that she creates a maelstrom. So if you guys have seen the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie where they're like fighting in that like torrential whirlpool, that's like a maelstrom. Okay. Then Scylla made her strike, whisking 6 of my best men from the ship. I happened to glance aft at ship and oarsmen and caught sight of their arms and legs dangling high overhead. Voices came down to me in anguish, calling my name for the last time. A man surf casting on a point of rock for bass or mackerel, whipping his long rod to drop the sinker and the bait far out, will hook a fish and rip it from the surface, to dangle wiggling through the air. So these were borne aloft in spasms toward the cliff. So again, we have that heroic simile. They give us this idea of what a fisherman looks like. They'll whip the pole out to catch a fish and then yank it back. That's what Scylla's yanking of the men up looked like. So it's a heroic simile. Scylla's snatching the men or being compared to a fisherman. That's characteristic of epic poetry. You could jot it down. She ate them as they shrieked there in her den in the dire grapple, reaching still for me, and deathly pity ran me through at that sight. Far the worst I ever suffered, questing the passes of the strange sea. We rowed on. The rocks were now behind, Charybdis too, and Scylla dropped astern. Then we coasting the noble island of the god, where grazed those cattle with wide brows and bounteous flocks of Helios, lord of noon, who rides high heaven. From the black ship, far still at sea, I heard the lowering of the cattle winding home and sheep bleating, and heard, too, in my heart, the words of blind Tiresias of Thebes and Circe of Aea, both forbade me the island of the world's delight, the sun.